I'd like to hand over to Alice.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much once again for coming to this event. Our first speaker is Hawa Sulaiman, who is a specialist in gender issues affecting women and girls. She has been involved in peace building since the age of 13, using her writing and poetry. Hawa has been very passionate about FGM, and she's going to be sharing with you the definition of FGM, and the prevalence of it. Hawa Sulaiman, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Alice. So hi, my name is Hawa Sulaiman, and I work with an Oxfordshire-based charity called Oxford Against Cutting. We work to end harmful traditional practices affecting women and girls in the wider Thames Valley area. FGM is a practice that is being done across the world. It is a global practice that has been going on for over 2,000 years now. FGM stands for Female Genital Mutilation, and it involves any harm that is being done to the external female genitalia without any medical reasons. FGM is known across the world using different terminologies. Some people refer to it as female genital cutting. Some people refer to it as female circumcision. FGM is divided into 4 types, and this is not to say that these are the only categories that it could be divided into, but for the purpose of referencing, we divided it into 4 categories. The first type of FGM is where the clitoris, or most of it or part of it, and the hood is removed, and this is also known as clitoridectomy. Type 2 FGM involves the removal of the external and internal clitoris and perhaps part of the labia minora. The type 3 FGM, which is the most severe form after type 1 and 2, involves the removal of the clitoris, the labia minora, majora, and sometimes the stitching up to narrow the vaginal orifice. Type 4 FGM covers any other practice that doesn't fall under categories type 1, 2, and 3. This would include things like piercing, cauterizing, burning, stretching, and a lot of other things that could be done to the female genitalia. FGM is known in some parts according to different languages and tribes. It is known as Bondo, it is known as Kitan, Sunna. It has different terms. And the reason why it is important to understand the terminology is that when speaking to affected communities, it is very important that we use the language to which they know it as, because that would help us to reach across to them. And it is also important when talking to survivors that we use the term by which they refer to this practice. The prevalence of FGM across the world is quite wide. An estimated 200 million women and girls all over the world have gone through FGM, either of the various types. And to put that in perspective, that is over 3 times the population of the UK, which is quite a huge number when you think about it. FGM has been recorded in every continent in the world. It is known to be practiced in Africa. There is a group of countries around sub-Saharan Africa that is particularly prevalent. It has been practiced in parts of Middle East, in Asia. There is evidence that it's been practiced in parts of South America as well. I think it is important for us to point this out because one of the biggest myths around FGM is that it is an African problem, but it is not. It is practiced all over the world in different forms. And because over time there has been migration, we tend to carry our cultures and traditions all over the world, and we will find that FGM exists everywhere. In the UK, there is, it's kind of hard to find concrete data, but over the years, there has been an estimate of 137,000 women and girls that are living with FGM at some point. So that is quite a huge number. And because FGM is something that is particularly sensitive and not something people would normally talk about, the number that we know is definitely smaller than the actual problem. FGM is usually discovered, through GPs or in the hospital when women go to give birth. So midwives are one of those professionals that discover FGM, because they have access to that part, because it is not something that people generally would talk about. It is a known fact that in cultures where FGM happen, it is usually a shush matter. It's not something that you talk about or you discuss. FGM could happen to girls from the time they are babies. Some girls have no recollection of what happened to them up until teenage years. It could happen to 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, depending on the traditions of the practicing community. Now that we've covered all this, we've talked about the numbers in the UK. The Thames Valley area has quite a few numbers. Milton Keynes, Slough are considered like hotspots because they have around 2,000 cases. Oxford and Reading also have around 1,000 cases. As I said, these numbers are very hard to pinpoint particularly, but through the work that is being done over the years, we're able to collect data. So what does the law says about FGM? Around the world, FGM has been made illegal for a long time. In the UK, it's been illegal actually since 1985, but then it wasn't really recognized as such. It was known as Prohibition of Female Circumcision Act, because initially that was the name that it was given. In 2003, the FGM Act came into place, and that is when it set clear guidelines for FGM and the fact that it is illegal to carry FGM on UK nationals, even if they're taken out of the country. Now, this part is quite important, because if we say that FGM is illegal in the UK and there's a lot of enforcement around that, then what happens if families take children overseas to go and have FGM done? So in 2003, it was said that, okay, then even if they're in a third country, they are still protected because they are UK citizens. And then if someone is prosecuted for FGM, they could get up to 14 years in prison and a fine or both. And then in 2015, the mandatory reporting was introduced, which demands that people like teachers people in social care, healthcare, who come in contact with children and young girls who discover the FGM has happened to a child, have the duty to report it to the authorities that FGM, has happened, so that further investigation could be done. This is particularly important in cases where the girl that has been cut has siblings, because it begs the question, what about the sisters? What about the mother? Has she been cut? Would she be suffering consequences that she would need help with? Because FGM, as survivors has described it, is pain for life. It's not something that you just get over after some time. It has physical consequences. It has psychological consequences as well. Survivors complain of having difficulties with urinary tract infections. It could lead to infertility. And at the point where it is being done, there's always the risk of infection, of sepsis, of death due to bleeding, because it is ordinarily done in unsanitary conditions by cutters, who are people that have no knowledge of, anatomy or medicine, but they have experience in doing FGM. So children or young girls are first faced with a lot of dangers. And over the long time, you have a lot of other issues that come in. people who work with survivors of FGM in FGM clinics have reported that in places where type 3 FGM has happened to a woman, which is infibulation, where she is being stitched up, then at the point of giving birth, she would need to be deinfibulated for her to be able to give birth to a child. And they've said they've seen women with just an opening as big as a matchstick for them to pass their period blood and urinate, which leads to a lot of difficulties. It could take an hour for them just to finish going to the toilet. So there's a lot of side effects and consequences that come from FGM. So that's what the law says regarding FGM in the UK. Another interesting thing I think to note in 2015 is that apart from the fact that the FGM Act covers British citizens and nationals, it goes as far as to cover people who are habitual residents in the UK. So anybody that is temporarily living in the UK is also covered by that law, which is quite important. Now, prosecuting FGM is not as easy as one would think. Since the law has been put into place to date, there's been only one successful prosecution, which has led to a conviction. And this could be a myriad of things that would cause this. It could be the fact that it is a sensitive issue. There is also the issue that professionals are not do not feel very comfortable talking about it, because it is something that is very private. It is something that we may believe we don't have enough knowledge about, or that we would understand. So that is why a lot of education and awareness is going on, because when you give people the knowledge, you empower them, and then they would be in a better position to act and do something about it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so there is, so that is the part about convicting people who have, subjected someone through FGM. But what about people who are bystanders and they refuse to do anything? Because you don't have to perform FGM on a girl for you to be a culprit. If you sit back and watch it happen, then you will be culpable as well. And in a bit to counter this, because what we don't want to be prosecuting people. If they've done something, obviously we want to, but most importantly, we want to prevent FGM from happening in the first place. And to do this, we have FGM protection orders, which are just, which could be taken out, and then it would prevent a girl from having FGM performed on her. And I think one of the things that is quite important about the FGM protection orders is that it ensures protection for the child without actually having to take her out of the home. So as long as it is agreed that she would be safe in the home, and a lot of let's say measures have been put in place, then the child could continue to live with her family without having FGM performed to her at some point. And I think this is quite important, because generally communities are a bit reluctant when it comes to social services, and people don't really have the best relationship with social services and care. So I think it's quite important that people know this. In talking about FGM, we do a lot of work with survivors, because we believe that the best voice, the strongest voice out there is the voice of people who have been through this. So after I finish talking, I will hand over to my colleague Mariama, who would talk you through it. And in creating awareness about this, though it isn't an easy topic to talk about, and we always leave an audience feeling like you have imposed some trauma onto them, because it is quite heavy material that you're talking about. But we understand that it is equally important to talk about this through adults, to talk about this with children that are old enough to understand the concept, because you just never know who you might be helping or who will be able to help somebody through this. I've touched on a little about the harms of FGM. Now, if it is such a harmful practice, then why it is being done? We look at the reasons why communities practice FGM. I would say that it is primarily an issue of tradition and not wanting to abandon a practice that has been done for many generations. Because one of the myths around FGM is that it is a religious practice, but that simply is not true. FGM predates all the major world religions. It has been traced back to pharaonic times, which is before any religion was even there, but we would find it practiced along people who belong to Judaism, Islam, Christianity, because people come from different cultures, not because religion says that that should be done. And people believe when they do it, they're doing it out of love for their daughters because they don't want them to be stigmatized in the society. They want them to belong, because sometimes you find that there's a lot of stigma around girls who have not been caught. You know, there are some communities or families wouldn't marry girls who have not been caught because they are considered not to be pure, because there's such an emphasis on preserving virginity and ensuring that girls remain chaste until marriage. So that's just a few of the reasons that people might give. I'm sure there are a lot out there, but I have gone on for a long time. I have said enough, and I would like to hand over to my colleague, Mariama, who I work with, and she would talk to you as a survivor and share a little bit about her experience. Thank you, Alice and Carol and Community United for this opportunity to speak. And I'm happy to take your questions at the end. You can just pop them in the chat box and we can go through them at the end. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariama Salah. I'm from Gambia, and I'm a facilitator with Oxford Against Cutting and a survivor of FGM. When we say FGM or circumcision, or we have different terms, people, when they say, oh, that is so cool, cutting, that is so cool, but it's those people who are practices and the communities that are the communities that are practicing it, they don't see it as like that. They think they're doing the best thing for the kid, or they are doing it out of love. In my case, I was caught when I was 3 months old, and I didn't know I was caught until my siblings, the younger ones, like my younger sister, was going, and I wanted to go. I was crying my eyes out, and I said, Mom, I wanted to go, because the atmosphere was so nice, and this party, singing, dancing, lot of food, but normally it's performed in a very remote area where male cannot see us. So it's so nice, and I used to cry my eyes out. I want to go, I want to go. My mom said, no, you've been already caught. And I've been so jealous with my sister because they have loads of presents and all this. I didn't have any. And when during the cutting season, people like for example, I cannot say about mine, but I can still remember that of my sister. It was like very early in the morning. My mother went to the mosque to pray before he comes. Normally the male, they're not aware. So my dad went to the mosque before he come. My cousins came to the house and pick my sisters, put them on their back and take them to it's like a farm. And it was like dancing, partying, cooking, eating. It was so nice. And apart from the cotton bed, everything of it is nice. They do it out of love. They do it because they wanted to protect the girl child from early pregnancy. They do it because they want to control the child sex drive. They do it because they wanted the child to fit in. They do it, they wanted you to get ready, to prepare you to get ready for marriage. In my case, when I was caught, I was 3 months and I didn't know I was caught until I wanted to go and my mom said no. So when I got married, because I was caught, they did type 3 on me. They caught me and stitched me. So I didn't know I was caught. I didn't know I was stitched until they took me to my husband and they realize they stitch me, and they have to take me back to cut me open again and take me back to my husband. Because one, when they stitch you, you cannot get pregnant. And because when you get, especially the society I came from, if you get pregnant without being married, you are outcast. People will point fingers at you. And most of the time, the person who impregnates you will not marry you. So every parent wants to reserve their child virginity, so they will have a good husband. They will not be outcast. They will not be insulted. So they think the best way to do it, cut them and stitch them. Because I have not only me that is been cut and stitched. I have like few cousins, the same thing, they've been cut and stitched. So they control, because they don't want you to be outcast. And when you get pregnant, no one will want to marry. If, like I have a son who see a girl that have a child somewhere else and came to me, oh, mom, I want to marry. So I say, no, you go and find yourself a virgin. That's how it is like that. So every mother wanted to protect their child from that outcasting that you get pregnant, nobody wants you, or they will call your child a bastard. So you're not gonna fit in. And secondly, if you are not caught, some families, if you marry into their family, they will call you like Solima. It's more of like a bastard. And sometimes your in-laws will not eat your food because you're not clean. They term it as not clean, not purified. So they won't eat your food. They will outcast you. I've seen a case that the lady married into a family who is caught. And because she didn't fit in, she was always outside at the corner. And people, when she did something, even the slightest mistake, they will call her Solima. And it's so hurtful. She take herself to the lady who to be caught. And she was a grown-up just to fit in. That's why she went to be caught. So to avoid all those things, your parents tend to cut you when you are young. And getting you ready for marriage, like during courting season, they teach girls how to be a good wife, how to be a good daughter, how to treat your in-laws, how to treat your parents, how to treat your husband. So during the courting season, it's not only singing, dancing, and play. No, there are certain times, like early in the morning, they will come, and the lady who court, they will teach the girls who are like the biggest in that group. Like if you are a teenager and you happen to be caught at that time, they will teach you. And those people like me who was caught when I was 3 months, so I don't know anything about. But by the time my younger sisters were caught, day before the courting season is up, they will gather all the girls who are ready to marriage. It's more or less like a week before the courting season. They will gather all the girls who are at the age of getting married, and that's the time they will be teaching you more how to be a good wife. Like in my case, because I was caught when I was young, so I won't remember anything they've been teaching me at that time. But when my sisters were caught, I'll join them at the latter part to be teach those things. So teaching you how to be a good wife, how to be a good daughter-in-law to your mother-in-laws and father-in-law are also the reason. And it's tradition. So if you are born in a culture that practices it, obviously they will cut you. Sometimes even your parents will not cut you. Like, for example, like when I went to Gambia a couple of years ago, I took my daughter. My mom's sister wanted me to cut her. I said, no, you cannot cut her. And she said, why not? You've been caught, your mom been caught, your grandparents have been caught. Why don't you want your daughter to be caught? I said, look, if you caught my child without me knowing it, I might have problem at the end of the day. So if you do that, so I have to take my daughter everywhere I go before because I was scared you were gonna steal it. Sometimes like your parents will not want to cut you, but for example, they have life, they will be going to work, go to the market and normally they leave the kids at home. So one of your family members will come and just get them and cut them. They're not doing it because they hate you. They just wanted to show you that they love you. They love your the parent. They love the child. That's why they perform that to show the family how they appreciate you. Some people will say, "Oh, that's so cool," but it's not. They do it because they hate the kid or they hate the family. No, they do it because they wanted to express how much they care about you and your children.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's been very enlightening. Thank you very, very much to share about your experience as a survivor. Thank you. I would like to introduce our Right Honorable Laura Ferris, who's going to be introducing our next speaker.
A year and a half and I still forget to turn the mute button off. Thank you so much, Alice and Carol, for organizing this, and also to Mariama and to Hawa for your presentations. It is so harrowing to hear about FGM. You know, I think the fact we talk about it as 3 letters stops us from actually speaking very honestly about what it is and what it involves. And if you're serious about this issue, you actually have to hear from people who were active on it exactly what happens. And I remember when I was a governor of my kids' primary school in London, when we lived in London, one of the things that Ofsted told us is that we had to look very carefully at the younger children, because even though, of course, it's not legal, parents do it on younger and younger kids now because they're less likely to complain about it and they're less likely to be discovered. So it's something that I've kind of been aware of for a long time. I'm so glad and honored actually to welcome our next guest, who is an incredible FGM. She's probably the leading FGM campaigner in this country. She's a friend. We're working together on stuff on women's rights in Parliament. And I'll just give you a little brief background on her. Her name is Nimco Ali. She was born in Somaliland, Somalia, I think is actually correct. And she is also a victim of FGM, but she arrived in the UK as a child. I think it's fair to say, she wouldn't mind me saying, she has devoted her whole life to activism around women's rights. She's founded several organizations, the Five Foundation, Daughters of Eve, but all of them with the aim of really getting action and awareness up on FGM. And she has an incredible ability to make things happen. She gets to reach prime ministers and leading ministers, and she gets very, very unlikely people like the prime minister to make very serious commitments on this issue. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think it would have really reached his inbox or be something that he was willing to stand up and talk about. In October 2020, she was appointed to the Home Office. She is their independent advisor on violence against women and girls, and she's very respected by everybody, I think in all parties actually, on that issue. And also she has previously been a candidate for the Women's Equality Party, which complements all her work as an activist. And she's also been awarded a number of awards, and OBE is one, and also she's been awarded human rights awards for her complete commitment and activism in the area of women's rights, and specifically as an anti-FGM campaigner. So Nimco, welcome. We're so happy to have you in West Berkshire. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Alice, and everybody else who put this on. And it's incredible to hear Howard's presentation and Mariama as well. Yeah, so it's really incredible to be here. And it's like, you know, having started this activism 10 years ago, I think the fact that we're talking about FGM with such awareness is incredible. For me, as somebody that has grown up in this country, both with FGM and without FGM, I think the key premise around the work that I was doing was just for institutions to be able to ensure that they were protecting girls and women who and giving services to women who are survivors of FGM. I think one of the greatest achievements out of the work that I've done was having FGM added to the Children's Act in 2019. So yeah, I'm more than happy to kind of like, you know, honor to join and you know, answer questions and kind of take anything from that from onwards from there.
Thank you, Nimco. Thank you very much for coming in. And it's an honor to have you here. So, and after this, you'll be a panel and you can answer questions as well. Okay. So our next speaker is Reverend Julia Paul, an ordained pastor who is passionate about holistically meeting the needs of our community. Apart from being a pastor, she's also an FGM consultant for the Mojatu Foundation in Nottingham, a trainer for faith leaders, as well as an FGM ambassador to bring FGM to a stop. Reverend Julia Paul.
I hope you can see that. What does the Bible say about FGM? Christianity, the Bible does not mention FGM, and Christian authorities agree. The Christian authorities, they agree that the practice has no foundation in Christianity's religion text, and the Christian missionaries in Africa were at the forefront of efforts to stop it. These are some of the things that, and because why the reason as to why FGM is associated with the Christians, and or why most Christians they embark themselves into doing that. One of the things is a myth about purity. Most cultures, they really emphasize, or most religious groups, they emphasize on the purity of a woman or a man before marriage. And as our sister was speaking there, you heard she was insisting on the reason as to why they cut the woman. It's because they want to sustain that purity. Now, in the sense of sustaining that purity, when most communities, when they came into the belief of Christianity, they felt to carry on this practice because it is part of what they believed, that it will make a woman to remain pure. Because virginity is, in Christianity, it's believed that a woman should be married when she's a virgin, because Mary, mother of Jesus, was a virgin. And so most of those Christians, they believe in that, and that's why it is practiced, that it is that. But now, because of that, we come to conservation of life and health. Now, we as Christians or Christian faith, they believe in conservation of life and health. And in Genesis 1:27 verse 31, it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. This verse presents the goodness of God's creation, including man, whom he created in his image according to his likeness. Also Genesis 9:5-6 says, and I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. For God made human beings in his own image. Here we see God makes man accountable for the destruction of life. Now, when we as Christians, now the reason as to why we want to stand against this particular practice, it's because we feel it denies that girl or that woman the life that God intended them. Because when God created the woman, especially when you read the Bible, he created the animals and he created the man. But God realized the man was not happy, and then he created the woman. And when he created the woman, the Bible says clearly that beyond, God is saying beyond everything was good. Now, we believe everything was not good before the creation of a woman. And God created, the Bible is telling us that he created all of them in the image of God. Therefore, as Christians, we believe that when you interfere with that which God created and he called it beautiful, then you interfering with the beauty that God pronounced with his own mouth. So it's preserving our bodies. 1 Corinthians 6:15-19 says that our bodies are members of Christ and the temple of the Holy Spirit. Our bodies do not belong to us. This is unbelief in Christianity. And we do not have any right to disfigure it in any way, because female genital mutilation is detrimental to health, threatening to life, and harmful sexual function. It contradicts the will of God. It contradicts the will of God, because when you alter the sexuality, God would desire that girl or that woman to enjoy sexuality. But when you deny that, us as Christians now, we believe that you are going against the will of God, and it is not right that a woman should not be able to enjoy that which God intended her to enjoy, because we strongly believe God and a purpose and a reason for every single organ that He put in us. He specifically put it there. And I always like to tell people that even when you are using the microwave, for the microwave to function the way it is, if you remove one button, that microwave will not do what it is expected. So even as God created us with a reason and a purpose, and when we alter that, then it is against the will of God. It's violating God's blessing of the marriage. Proverbs 5:18 says, "Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth." Marriage is and has been a universal practice for almost every civilized culture throughout history, yet it is considered a sacrament in the Orthodox Church. The practice of female genital mutilation defiles the Creator's intent for the marriage. Because like when you hear now the way our sister was explaining, I know most people, when they hear somebody explaining exactly things that happen, they think it is just explaining. But this is not a fiction. This is not a movie. It is a real life experience. The other thing that we as Christians, why we stand against FGM, it's elder reproduction. For married couple, the gift of this union may be further blessed by the birth of children. In Psalms 128:3, it says, "Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house, your children like olive plants all around the table." The fact that healthy childbirth is threatened by female genital mutilations answers the opposition of this practice. So because we believe that children are gift from God, and this is what the Bible says. Now, with the statistics we have seen, some women who have experienced FGM, they have not been able to give birth, or they're having that problem. And not because they could not get children, but something was altered in them that made it not to happen. The other thing is contrary to divinely revealed principles. Thus, the practice of female genital mutilation is found to be contrary to divinely revealed principles, and our responsibility as children, or as children of God, or as Christians, our responsibility is that we should be showing empathetic care. Love for the neighbor prompts Christians to care with compassion for those who have experienced physical and emotional trauma caused by female genital mutilation. Sharing the fact, as Christians, we should share our beliefs regarding female genital mutilation. And that's why wherever I am, I always encourage, especially the faith leaders, because we know faith leaders are very much trusted within our communities. And my desire is, or our desire is, for every faith group, let the faith leaders arise and work together with communities towards this, because a lot of, like even in African, where it is a lot practiced, a lot of people believe in higher powers, a lot of people believe in God, and a lot of people, they believe in the place of worship. And I personally believe, if even at our place of worship, as we are telling people about the Bible, what the Bible says, let us be able to denounce. It is our responsibility to be able to denounce these kind of practices from our pulpit, because the people, they will always listen to what the faith leader is telling them. John 8:1-2 says, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." So I believe that Christians, they should be out there in the front line also to exercise the Bible that they so believe in. Following God's principles, although we respect the cultural differences, God's principles surpass these traditions. And Matthew 5:15 says, why do you so transgress the commandments of God because of your tradition? Even the Bible itself is questioning, why are we transgressing the commandment of God because of our traditions? God does not expect us to live above our traditions, but he expects us to obey and to abide as per what he has put in his word. Also, Acts 5:29 says, we ought to obey God rather than men. So as Christians, or as a Christian, we encourage people, and I encourage people, that let us know that it is God himself who created that woman, and no human being who has a right to shed the blood of another one for the sake of the traditions. So my prayer tonight is that let us be at the front line. Let us condemn this act. Let us speak about it. Some people, they feel ashamed to share it, or they feel like they will make people very uncomfortable. There are times that we ought to understand it calls for each and every one of us. It is better for people to be uncomfortable now rather than for us to allow someone else to suffer. Because as Christians, we are told to carry one another's burden. So now, as a Christian, when I tell people, say no to FGM, it is my belief that I'm helping them to carry this burden, because the burden belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Julia Paul. Thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is Anthony Dawe. Anthony is born in Liberia, is one of the thousands of those who became victims of both Liberia and Sierra Leone civil war of 1990. His childhood experience during the conflict and the effect of this on the society, especially on women, has inspired him to be an ambassador to empower women and to fight for their rights and dignity as a person in society through empowerment and abolishing FGM. Anthony, over to you.
So my first topic there is, if you bring me 1,000 women from different background and culture, definitely I can guarantee you that about 20 or more of them, they have experienced FGM along the way. I believe strongly that FGM, it don't respect boundary. So that is the reason we have to try our best as much as we can so that we can stop it. This is me. I'm Anthony. As we're hearing, I was born in Liberia. I raised up in Sierra Leone. I witnessed the two civil war in those countries, and I saw a lot of suffering from myself, and a lot of them, they were women. So because of this reason, I have actually decided that yes, we have to fight to minimize the suffering of women. And one of those things that I consider so much in a society that are affecting women is this FGM we are talking about. FGM is really strong in Sierra Leone, and FGM is also strong in Liberia. And for the past 3 years or so, I was in Sweden. I tried so hard with some of my friends, and we managed to create an organization that we call Girls' Rights Initiative for Ethical Behavior. The aim of Girls' Rights Initiative for Ethical Behavior is to empower women in the society, and we do advocacy. And at the end of the day, one of our best area is also try as much as we can to bring the awareness so that this FGM, or the female circumcision, will be stopped in Africa and around the world as a whole. Statistics show that Liberia, about 66% of all women in Liberia, they have undergone FGM. As our speakers were saying, like Howard, she was trying to figure out this, And in Sierra Leone, about 88% of all those women, they have gone through FGM, which means I was born in a society which the practice has always been there. It is really serious in that country, and we see it every day. But one thing that I observe, I mean, like as we were talking, this is just part of the work that the organization is doing in Sierra Leone. We do those things. So one of the things that I think so much about what has been happening, or like the messages that our other speakers were saying, is the fact that even though there are women who are not caught, but yet they still get married, which tells me that this problem is not really is not the action of men. The society that I came from to talk about a woman private, or like to talk about their vagina, it is something that is a taboo. Men, for us, we don't care much about that, sometimes because it is not us that are being caught. Cutting is actually done by women. So this is the reason why I think we should encourage women, to educate women, so that they will encourage their men to actually participate in this action, because mostly it is men who make final decision. If a woman wants for something to be implemented and they call the attention of the men, it can be done. And also, if women decide that they want to have a change and they want for their male partner to empower them, definitely it's going to work. Let's think about the Liberian Civil War. For over 10 years plus, Liberia, my home country, was fighting war. And all these men, they do all their peace accord, they do everything, they couldn't get a peace, until when these women, they decided that we are no longer going to give you guys sex until you go to the drawing board again and you fight, and then you end the war before you have a sex. At the end of the day, Liberia got a female president because of the work that they did to bring about the end of that war. If women are ready, I believe FGM is going to end. So this is it. Cutting for me is the biggest crime against women. From a very early age, people started doing it. In other society, you're going to be of a very age, you grew up. Our sister Hawa, or like, and the next lady she was talking about, when she was caught at a very early age, this is a sample of Bono, or the Sandy, as we already had, of people who goes in. In my culture, I came from the Bassa tribe in Liberia. People go into the society bush, they will spend like up to a year or 6 months, from 6 months to 1 year. People will be in that society bush. Cutting is like the certificate given to women, because you have already got the teachings and all those things to make your life easy, as one of our speakers was saying. This lady you see on this picture now, there are people who are being in that society, and this is just part of the celebration. This was many years ago. I myself, I have seen this in my society, but sometimes people are as young as 6 months old, or so, like our sister, like our next sister was saying, and they can still cut them. And at that time, they have no experience. So they don't know whether it is good or bad. But because through my organization, I've been working with women in Sierra Leone, I have a story of a girl that she actually gave back to her child, her first child, before she went into the society bush, after her friends persuaded her to go there. And then I asked, what is your life experience now, before the cutting and after the cutting? Her statement was, had I known, I wouldn't have done what I did, because she walked herself in. As our speaker from Gambia was saying, I've forgotten her name again, she said one of these ladies, she got married, she was over there. And you see that those people who put pressure on that lady for her to go and cut herself was women. It was not the men. Because women, I had my girlfriend in Liberia. When I was in Sierra Leone, I never even tried to look under you. What is there? We don't care. We don't really care. It is women that are doing this thing to other women, because they know it has been done to them. They use this tradition. This is the reason why I want for us to abolish this tradition. Because we all know sometimes if you do evil to yourself, or evil has been done to yourself, you want for someone else to feel the same pain you felt. So this is what I believe. That is the reason you see FBS over there. FGM is a kind of way of life. In a sense, those people who are initiating people, it is their own means of getting money. They persuade these other people, they share in the money. This thing costs some family over $100. Imagine 100 or something in poor Africa where people live on less than $1 per day. A woman cutting like all these children in a village, about 10, 15, 30 children, she's making huge money. How can you stop her from from getting this kind of money? These are some of the things we have to think about. If we are really fighting to end FGM, it's not just about talking about it. It's about how we can transform the society and change the mind of those people who are doing this thing. If you take away someone else's means of living, definitely it's not work. And like our Reverend Julia was saying, faith leaders is just like these people. They have power. If we can persuade them, then at the end of the day, we're going to get a result. But we sitting here, or like we in this way we talk about it, is really going to have less thing. I strongly believe that the polygamous life that men are living in Africa is because of FGM. Why did I say this? A woman, whenever a woman has been caught, her sexual desire goes next to zero. And when you cannot please your man again, you give him that urge for him to go out there and bring another woman. And you say, oh yes, I'm going to do that. It's okay. Because you know, at the end of the day, all you feel during your sex life is pain. And because these women, they are strongly in pain, they almost always allow their husband to look for a new wife. And when this person came also, they experienced the same thing, because the man desire cannot be satisfied. It continue going and going and going. If you have a wife who can actually please you, I'm telling you, you will be full enough and you will not want to look for a spare part. For me, FGM shouldn't be a fashion. It has no advantage. FGM is an abuse to women. FGM is some form of women castration, because you take away everything their sexual drive, you remove all those things. During time of giving birth, they become birth complication and all these things. Cutting is done also, like we know, to control people. It is not something that I believe in is about preserving virginity, because virginity is something that has never been tampered with. But you tamper with this person, then at the end of the day, you say you are preserving something. I definitely don't buy that idea. And that is the reason why in our organizations, we are fighting so hard for us to bring an end to this in our generation. And how we do this, we empower people. We talk to them, try to bring them something that's going to distract them from doing some of these things, give them education to the children. And at the end of the day, you see that it's going to be. This is just some of the statistics that UNICEF was trying to do. Boys and men stay strong. Boys and men, we are strongly against it, and we are fighting to stop FGM. Girls and women are surprised to know that men doesn't want for FGM to be performed on them. But they do know it is women that are doing these things. The majority of girls and women want for FGM to end. Many girls who are caught have mothers who are against the practice. One of our sisters was saying these things. So at the end of the day, it is if your mom does it, and always hear the word is mom, the mom. It is not the dad. When somebody is giving birth to a child in Africa, the man is not there. What does they do in that bush? Is different. Man has no idea. It is women's game. So we have to focus on the women for them to help stop these things. In my relationship, we are fighting this thing. Just like the little girl at the beginning of the video was saying, we should continue expressing this message over and over and again. Then at the end of the day, it will stick. People say if it tells a lies over and over and over and over, it will end up becoming true. The more we stick on this and the more we talk about it, the more we will have a larger population that are going to help us to stop these things. So, oh, my stuff, yes, that is it. There is hope if we work together to do something about FGM. So, yes, I think because of time, I just have to stop here to say, if you think I am beautiful, don't cut my team, period. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you men have got control too. You could turn around and tell women not to have it as well. So that's a way forward as well. Okay, our next speaker is Jamie Kuroma. Jamie and I have known each other for 17 years. She's a specialist FGM midwife at the Royal Berkshire Hospital Foundation Trust. She's a founder and lead of the Women with Vision community support and campaigns to eradicate the practice of FGM in a generation. A passionate community champion who is devoted to raising awareness to end this unacceptable practice. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Kuroma.
So I am Jamie Kuroma. I'm a midwife at the Royal Berkshire Hospital. I'm one of the specialist midwives fighting for this end of this long protracted journey that we all walking towards. So I'll give you a bit of a gist about myself. So I am a survivor myself. I'm originally from Sierra Leone, and as a survivor, I was mutilated when I was age 10. So my journey had started since then, unknowing to me where I'm going with this whole journey, and I don't even know where it's going to take me. So at the age of 10, as I think it was Maria Madam mentioned about how people are being forced into it or pressure, and that sign of wanting to belong. Even though I was a 10-year-old, it was more that pressure of wanting to become part of a sense of belonging within that community that actually pushed me to wanting to be part of the community and wanting to be part of the Bundu society. So at that age of 10, I was mutilated because I put so much pressure on my grandma and wanted to be part of the Bundu society, not actually knowing what was going on behind the scenes. All I knew was obviously the fancy dress, the drum sounding, the laughter, the giggle, and people seemed to be very happy going in and out of it. And as an innocent young 10-year-old, I was very innocent and very blind. And because obviously FGM is such a taboo, it was not discussed as to what happens beyond what I can see with my own eyes and what people cannot talk about. So as a result of that, it was curiosity that got me in there. And I was very, 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 very stubborn in giving up, because several times my mother tried to talk me out of it in an indirect way, of actually paying the cutters to just pretend as if they're going to take me in there to pretend that they've done everything and I'm ready to come out and I'll feel like I belong. But as smart as I was, but still very naive, it still didn't work, because I then said to my mom, I can't wait to actually be initiated into a true Bundu society. So when I was actually going to be initiated, I went for a holiday to my grandma, unknowing to my mom that my grandma had already prepared for me, because I've been urging my grandma, and this time round I went just by myself. My mom asked the driver to drop me off, they dropped me off, and they returned back to the city. And unknowing for me, 2 days down the line, my grandma said to me, what you've been asking for, I've prepared for it, so we're going to do it. And I was excited. So the whole process itself of me getting there, I was not forced. I was the one that was actually pushing for it. Looking at me, and when you look at my history and whatnot, you would not judge me as in being one of those who would be a survivor. So what I say to people is, don't judge the book by its cover. So I may look appearance-wise that, oh no, she cannot be a survivor. But I can tell you, I am a survivor. And I've gone through this fight for years and I continue with it. So unknowing to me, up to when I left Sierra Leone, I did not know anything other than the fact that, yes, I've gone to this, I've been cut, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. It was a secret, not even my mother that I spoke to about what I'd gone through. So when I was age 19, I came to the UK. And that's when this whole journey really unfolded, slowly started unfolding. That's when I realized about what FGM is all about. And then my curiosity again kicked in and I wanted to know more. So I then obviously wanted to know more. And as the more I delved into it, the more I wanted to even help people more. So I went into midwifery. So midwifery obviously had given me this platform to be able to understand what I've gone through, what these problems are. So when I was training as a midwife, my dissertation I actually wrote was actually about female genital mutilation and pregnant women, how the complications, how it's affecting women in childbearing, and also even beyond or before even conceiving. So that got me really drummed into it. I was really interested into the subject because as a survivor, I wanted to know more for myself, answering my own question, but at the same time, how I can use my experience, both from academic or even my personal experience, how I can use that within the profession to empower and support others, be an advocate, be a voice for these women. So that's how I got into the midwifery itself. And I've been a midwife now for 17 good years. If I include my journey, I'm probably 20 years now into this whole field of when I journeyed through it. So throughout this journey, I have helped women, supporting them when they come into labor, screening them through antenatally and just supporting them and making them know that at the end of the day, this question that is being asked, it's not about persecuting them. It's not about taking their children away from them. It's about what we can provide for them to be aware about the resources that are available to them. Because most of these women are scared. Within their family, that's all they know about is about social services and what they're going to do and probably the risk that they expose themselves into. But we as professionals are making that known to them and also supporting the midwives to have that knowledge as well, to be able to support these women and to make that very clear to the women from the onset that it's not about taking the children away. It's not about persecuting them. It's not about pointing fingers on them. It's all about how we're going to support these women and also support the unborn child or the children yet unborn and even the girl child that they've delivered and their families in terms of understanding, raising awareness, educating them so that in generations to come, we'll be able to put a stop to FGM. So I have not stopped just as being a midwife. I've also got my tentacles into the community wherein I work with community groups. I'm a community champion myself and an activist. And my fight doesn't stop within my profession. So I do work with the community as well. So I work with ACA, which has really supported my community group that I created, which is called Women with Vision. And that group itself came about because of me sharing my story at the conference years ago. And from within the community, that drive came from the women themselves, seeking for help and actually saying, what are you going to do, Jamie? Now that you've spoken about it, you've really empowered us. What we're going to do? There are so many people who are out there who are in the same boat as you are, but just hearing your story and knowing that all these myths that are behind talking about FGM has not bestowed you, is empowering others to know that it's not true. So we need to be able to support these women. So we came about probably about 10 women on that day when I put the message out there and just say, I'm coming up with this meeting, please come, let's share ideas, let's put our heads together and see what we can do as Sierra Leoneans, as Africans, as Asians, practicing communities all over Reading, and let's just see what we can do to be able to help. So that's how the community group itself came about, and it's been going on very strongly with women really, really fighting and being able to have that safe space that they can share their ideas, ask for advice, and also knowing that they're not alone and sharing their problems and being able to be supported to signpost them to relevant organizations or departments or areas that they need to go to in order for them to seek help and get the appropriate help that they need or support that they require. So my activism itself is still going, wherein I walk all over the place. I do go all as far as Liverpool, teaching on a day-to-day basis or talking about FGM itself. So in as much as I do have that bittersweet within me, within my experience, but I've used it to sort of empower myself. I've used it to be able to support others, using my experience to support people in the community, professionals. So working with professionals, organizations, charity organizations, you can name it. And a lot of people in here have already met me or probably have heard about me, because I don't feel like I need to shy away from my experience, but use that to be able to empower a lot of other women, motivate them and get them to find their feet and be able to speak up and be able to support their family, support their children. Because for us to be able to end this fight, we here need to be firm on the ground, and then we'll be able to go out there, even from our own little individual families. We can empower them and actually put a stop to it, saying it stops at me, and anybody else coming after me should not be mutilated. And we know what powers we have as being out here. Our families rely on us. Our families look up to us. They see us as champions in that family. They see us as the breadwinners. So we can use that power that we do have to actually stop that FGM within, if even it's just within that family. So we do that as well. And the women are really working on it. And I've got a couple of the women who are here in this event also just to support me and to support the idea, because when it comes to FGM, we are all very passionate about it and putting an end to it. So as we speak, about 2 years ago, I completed my master's in public health. And again, when I did my dissertation, I did it also on FGM. And that time around, I focused on actually looking at the urological complications of FGM. My brothers and sisters, you would not understand or underestimate the magnitude of these ramifications of FGM on women that you don't know about until they tell you, or you work in a clinical environment for you to see and understand the magnitude. It's deeply rooted. It's really affecting our women. So as a result, I am currently actually working to become a public health practitioner, my wings as much as I can, so that I can reach as far back into any angles that I can be able to tap into to support women with this fight. So just to sort of add on to it, just to show some of the people that we're working with, so within the healthcare profession itself, just gives us a list of people that I've worked with and that we're still continuing to work with. You've got the community organizations themselves, which includes Community United, ACA, you name it. So the list could go on, but these people are all working together with us to be able to support these practicing communities. Without these people, the fights would almost be impossible to end. So everybody is playing their parts. Everybody is taking advantage of every contact that they have with these women, with these children, with any families who are at risk or who are coming from practicing communities, as to how best they can support them. It's not about prosecution. The prosecution, the law itself is there, yes, to be able to support us, to be able to put something firm in place so that everybody knows that it's not something to mess about with. It's something very serious. It's something to do with people's lives, safety, and all the rest of it. So just want to share with everybody that I see myself that my whole journey within FGM itself has been a smart one, in the sense that I've been a strong survivor to save lives, to stop FGM in a generation. I have used my story, my bitter experience, to improve the care, the safety, and reduce the risk of women who might be posed to FGM itself. M would be obviously for motivation. So how I've used my motivation by working with the hospital, the community, and organizations to be able to see how best we can all work together with multi-agencies to have a better insight, understanding, and relating with the different organizations that are working with us, that are ready to support us, that can see where we are coming from and help to narrow those gaps. As an activist, I do obviously advocate for women and children. I am being a voice and will continue to be a voice for the women, demonstrating that compassionate leadership skill even within the community groups, within organizations that I work with, because I don't just go and just be a listener and a follower. I am always in there and actually diving in and working along with people and see how best I can make a difference. So the R would then stand for that resilience, because for me to carry on, there are a lot of bottlenecks, challenges that you do face. So you might think because I'm a survivor, it might be easier to have a gateway, easy access within these communities. They are hard to reach community groups. And therefore, I have to have that resilience to be able to deal with the challenges that I face when sometimes wanting to tap into these communities. And dealing with my own issues as an individual in supporting women to access services and any resources that are available to us and to the women themselves, and even as professionals. So I do a lot of teaching as well. So with that teaching, it goes all the way to Liverpool, and I teach at the Liverpool Medical School to be able to teach medical professionals or upcoming professionals to understand about FGM itself, get them well prepared and better placed to be able to deal with FGM issues themselves and to support the women who have already been survivors. And my T really stands for the trend. Where are we today and where do we want to get to? What are our targeted milestones towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal? Where are we and where are we going? We need to continue to work hard. We need to continue to work with these organizations. And I really, really appreciate Alice and the team, Community United, for putting this together and for us to be able to work towards this goal, because we are now in 2021 and 2023 is fastly approaching. And we know the challenges, the bottlenecks that we are facing. We've also got good things, obviously, that have come out of our journey so far. So let's not be put off. It is hard, it is protracted, and we all know that. And we have to continue pushing along. There are benefits, and there are women who have benefited from all these conferences that we are holding, from all the work that we are doing behind the scenes with people directly, face to face, indirectly asking for support. Just knowing where you are and being able to have that access to us makes a difference. And obviously, our long and short-term goals is very, very important. So we all know, obviously, with all this hard work that we all putting together, we want to get there. That's all of us, everybody here, and people who would go and speak to today, who would all make a difference. That's together, we can all make our daughters to be generation changers. And that's what we're working towards. So at the moment, I will love you all and just say a big thank you all for giving me this platform. But also, let's all remember that awareness saves lives, and that's why we're all here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. That's very thank you very much for sharing your story. And now I'll hand over to Julian.
Thank you, Alice. I think my role here is going to be a relatively brief one. If I may say, I think it's been interesting. It's been shocking in places, and some quite powerful testimonies, which I hope everybody has been able to take something from. Normally at this stage of our events, we would take the opportunity to put questions to the speakers. We haven't actually got that many questions, which I put down to the fact that our speakers were so good that they have actually covered off all of the issues that that people might have had to raise. There are a couple of questions I could put, though, that from a little bit earlier, from Elizabeth O'Keefe, particularly relating to West Berkshire. Do we have any statistics for those who have been victims of FGM in West Berkshire? And any, if we do have that information, do we know how that might split, excuse me, between adults and children? I don't know if anybody has any information on that from among our speakers. Or maybe not. Okay, well, we'll perhaps. Oh, Jamie. Yes,
sorry, I don't necessarily have one specifically just for West Berkshire. However, within the Reading, West Berkshire, and Wokingham, I can tell you that is a good amount of women who are survivors, because when the women do their bookings, we do ask them the questions. And majority of them would obviously self-report and say, yes, I am a victim, and they will be given help. So we do have data which shows that it is spread about. I don't have the numbers at hand currently to give you exact numbers, but it is definitely spread around between West Berkshire, Reading, Wokingham as well. So these women are here, and we do need to continue to give them the help and support that they need.
Okay, thank you. I mean, maybe we can try and find out some more specific numbers for West Berkshire and maybe feed that back at a future point. And there was one other small question, which was whether local schools might be open to discussion. Do any of our speakers have any experience of presenting in local schools?
I do. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Who was going first? Can I give the person a chance first? Sorry.
How I think wanted to come in. Do you want to come in?
Yes, I was going to say yes, schools. So in our organization, we do trainings for teachers as well as schools. And it's been slow over the pandemic with lockdown because we couldn't possibly train children virtually. But we do get requests from schools to teach children from year 7, 8, 9 at different levels. So we customize the lesson to their understanding. So yes, schools are very much open. And I think with the recent development of adding FGM to the curriculum to be taught into schools, I think over the next academic year, there would be a huge push from schools. So yes, they are definitely involved. They do get trained as teachers on what to look out for. And then they do offer training for the children. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
That's helpful. Thank you very much. Jamie, did you want to come in as well?
Yeah, just wanted to add, I think how I already said it, because I have run training with Kate Hager, who is part of Oxford Against Cutting. So there was funding wherein obviously we're able to extend their expertise into the Reading area as well. So I had that opportunity to be able to do teaching for teachers within the Reading community with Oxford Against Cutting.
Okay, thank you very much for that information.
Brilliant. Well, just to share with you, in our audience, we have Leethen Bartholomew from the National FGM Center, whether he would like to comment.
I was just about to invite him to do so. Leethen, is there anything that you could add to that?
I think Howard captured the answer well, but what I would add is, that the issue is really not only about secondary schools, it's primary schools, and part of the discussion is at what age should we actually start to be teaching children about FGM. So the video that you started off with that, I'm not sure of her age, of the child talking about FGM, having that discussion with her mother. She looks, what, 6, 7? I don't know if anyone knows her age. I mean, I've sat in a year 3 class at a school in Harrow in London called Norbury Primary School. And for an hour and a half, the 2 teachers taught these students, both boys and girls together, about FGM. And I can tell you, working on this issue for the past 15 years, these 8 and 9-year-olds grasp it better than adults. They ask such informed questions. I was in awe, and it's just a testament to the school ethos. So what the head teachers and the teachers managed to create in that school environment. When you walk in to the school, you're just immersed in everything is about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And these children at that young age can tell you everything about it. So the lessons are taught within that framework, but also the science curriculum for that age group, for that year 3 class. So I think, once it's obviously, as Howard said, for secondary school, you can do a bespoke course on FGM for the year group, but you can also do it for children that are younger. And they actually start from year 1, but they use the science curriculum to teach about FGM to the primary school students. And why they use the science curriculum is because the parents wouldn't be able to pull the children out of the class because science is mandatory.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope those comments have answered the questions that you put, Elizabeth, and we haven't actually got any other questions to put to our speakers. As I said, I put that down to the fact that the presentations have been so informative and so detailed, and that means I think that everybody has got a good understanding, I think, of where we are. So with that, I'll
quick question to our speakers. This is all, like, for me, learning a lot tonight, and I really thank you really for all of your input. But as I sit here as part of Community United and a resident of West Berkshire, my question is, what next? What can we do next? We have Laura here as one of our MPs. We have 3 MPs that cover West Berkshire, but what can we do to support the work that's really going to help you along the way?
Leethen.
I raised my hand to ask another question, not in response to Carol's.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask a question now?
Yeah.
I know that, I think the presentations were absolutely fantastic. And we focused on FGM as a single issue. But I wonder what the presenters' experience of FGM and other related issues. So, for example, during the pandemic, a lot of focus was placed on domestic abuse, rightfully. And FGM comes under that umbrella of domestic abuse, but we didn't hear anything in the narrative about FGM at all. And over the years, in 20% of the cases that we have dealt with at the FGM Center, it involves domestic abuse. It referred for domestic abuse, and then we find out about the FGM, or it's vice versa. And then a question for Anthony is, within the context of the Bunda Society and here in the UK, or even for Jamie as well, how much of the issue around witchcraft features in the cases that you've come across here in the UK as a means to silence people, women and girls, to not to talk about it. So it's just to help us. What I'm trying to get at is just trying to help us to have a broader understanding that when we're talking about FGM, we're talking about FGM.
I think Sister Jamie need to start.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I think I would say what we're doing is fabulous. And together as a team, we are all working together to make this a reality. You're absolutely right, because FGM itself cannot be treated on its own, because it's so related to things that you've already mentioned about forms of abuse and so on and so forth. Because with FGM comes marriage, with FGM comes, you can deal with obviously early forced marriage and all the rest of it, which comes under the same sort of umbrella. And I must say, quite probably about 2 years ago, oops, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. About 2 years ago, I probably had a bit of a disagreement or confrontation on Facebook with our president's wife, our first lady of Sierra Leone, because she is working on Hands Off Our Girls, which is touching on any forms of abuse on young women or women as a whole, children. But in her interview, she categorically said she would not talk about Bundu society, about FGM, because there's nothing wrong with FGM. FGM is fine. And for me, that was really hurtful. I felt really, really hurtful about it, because I cannot understand how a first lady would stand in a public gathering and actually say FGM is fine. But then at the same time, she talks about Hands Off Our Girls, early forced marriages, abuse, and all the rest of it, but actually eliminating FGM out of that equation doesn't work, because we all know that majority of our young girls and women, and as I think it's Mariama mentioned, it's a way of actually preparing a girl for marriage. So you cannot deal with early forced marriage and not deal with FGM. So how are we going to work on it? So I just feel, obviously, organizations who've been working with us, politicians, you know, I've been to House of Commons so many times, trying to change policies, trying to implement something stronger that would actually go into not just England or the United Kingdom, that could go beyond us here. How can the government support us? How can we have that support, not to encourage something like that? Because a woman who we see as a role model of a country, as a first lady, is actually against something that we are all fighting against, and she herself knows about it. And how can somewhere like UN not actually support or put a stop or actually question her on something like that? So sometimes those are some of the challenges that we are facing when we're trying to deal with these things. But at the same time, you've got figureheads who are actually being a bit of a barrier or a stumbling block in our way, so in order for us to be able to deal with these subjects in a very proactive way. So I hope I've been able to answer your question, though it's sort of like
oh my God.
Sorry,
Anthony?
Yes, I was just about to come in now for me to say something. You know, I mean, I'm going to blend the two questions that Karos asked and the one that brother Bartholomew just talked in my own way. You know, I mean, as long as people are traveling and people are traveling from these FGM related countries, cases will still continue to come to the UK. But how can we solve these things? For me, it's about educating the people downstairs, those countries that have been affected. About, like we said, about over 60 or 60% of people in Sierra Leone or Liberia, they have been affected. When the war was in progress, I wrote a nice story about FGM. You know, I detected that during the Sierra Leone and Liberian Civil War, FGM was not really going on, because people don't have that money. People were running for their life. They never actually take these things, you know, they practice, because like Mariama said, it is about occasions, it's about enjoyment. So during those years, many of those girls that were born in the early 1990s up to 1995 or going to 97 and 99, they never actually went through the practice. But when the war came to an end, the system reversed itself again and people started being initiated at a very rapid rate. Most of those people at that age, they actually escape these things because many of them, they are my friends. I talk to them. I talk to a lot of them. Some of them, they never went through. They have grown up, so they actually decide to go back and join themselves. If we educate these people, and like this midwife, these people who introduce them into the Bondo society, they are the same people who act as midwife during the time of giving birth. Just like Sister Jamie were saying, they are the kind of de facto midwife. If we educate these people, we can get out a way to provide some means of ending for them. Definitely, there's going to be a way for us to solve some of these things. That is the reason, like for example, our organization, Guest Right Initiative, we are actually operating a farming project in a community. We specifically identify that this project is for the women. We want to engage them. We want to educate them. This society is a place where they don't even give food to strangers. So how can we change that concept? What does the people that we are working together do whenever they go? Because these people don't give out their food to strangers and they don't take food from strangers. And we want to introduce a kind of generosity with them. We always decide to cook. And then while cooking our food, we invite them to come and contribute to help us do the preparation. And at the end of the day, we share the food with them. They are not going to refuse to eat because it is no longer a stranger food. They feel that it is part of them. So if we can get a way how we can educate these people in the society, especially those who are like either tribal elders and like religious leader, and if they buy our idea that FGM is wrong, at the end of the day, a lot of people will be saved. But other than that, we're going to struggle. We will solve it here. But if a new population come in, they're still going to be initiated before they get here. And then the system will continue. So that's what I think. I think even like in this group right now, one of those members, one of our Guest Right Initiative members, she asked a question that if you want to become an advocate, like an activist in a society that you believe that there is no activist about this FGM and they are threatening your life, what will you do? She asked that question and I want for someone else to answer, please. She's one of our members from Sierra Leone. She logged in from Sierra Leone. And thank you so much, Teresa, for being with us.
I'm not sure your question is being picked up there, Anthony, unfortunately. So, but thank you for that. Does it? Pardon me. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to put to our distinguished speakers, or even from one distinguished speaker to another?
Well, for me, it's not a question. I just wanted to speak on what Carol asked earlier on. What next? I strongly believe faith leaders, they have a duty of care to speak up about these kind of practices. And here in Nottingham, what we are currently doing, I've been training faith leaders because most of the times the faith leaders don't know, most of them, the majority that I've found, they are not aware about FGM and they don't know how to approach those cases. So what we've done here in Nottingham through Mojato Foundation and FGRC Church, I went around and we're trying to know how many faith groups, faith leaders we have within here, and we managed to get around 49 faith leaders that we trained them. What is FGM? How can they be able to incorporate these kind of teachings within their congregations? Because I strongly believe if we really want to fight FGM, it shouldn't be a requirement in every faith group. This is my personal view. It shouldn't be a requirement to every faith group, every faith leader to undergo that intensive training, so that now, like the churches where they do premarital counseling, they should be able to incorporate FGM as part of counseling that they should do. In this sense, they will be able to give this girl a safe space where, because if the faith leader during the counseling setting come up with the topic about FGM and what they should expect. Now, if this woman, if she has undergone FGM, she'll have that safe space to be able even to open up to this man. Because during my counseling sections, I had a couple that the man did not understand why this woman does not like sex. Why is it always she's closing her eyes? Why is it this and that is happening? Now, when we give them the safe space, the woman is able to have that opportunity to tell the man that actually what the minister is talking about, I have undergone it. That way, the woman is able to open up, and then the faith leader is able to tell the man or to tell the couple what are some of the expectations they should expect, and they are able to go serious counseling because the woman is already traumatic. All the psychological effects are in her, and if they start dealing with these side effects before the marriage begins, then their marriage can be in a better position because they will be understanding. So I strongly think if it can be a requirement for every faithing group to incorporate that, most of the things that most people, they are just talking about the Bible and Jesus. But when we look at it, Jesus was about people. And if as a faith leader, if I'm not able to meet the needs of the community, then I'm not supposed to call myself a faith leader, because I believe we should holistically be able to deal with everything that affects our congregation. So even from the people that believe in prayers, let prayers be set out there. Let's hear from the pulpit, ministers praying about domestic abuse survivors. Let us hear them pray for those survivors who are experiencing FGM. Let us have these teachings the same way that we have prayer group topic, the same way we have this and that topic. Let these topics be among our place of worship. And that way, we will create a safe space where everybody knows it is not a taboo to speak about FGM. And when everybody is speaking about it, then everybody will be aware and conscious about it. But now the problem is, a lot of our faithing group leaders, they have not taken time to understand what is mental health issues, what is domestic abuse, what is this. So if we can have it as a requirement within our place of worship places, then I think we can be in a better position. And then I always say, let the faith leaders be at the forefront, because a lot of people trust their faithing group leader. Let them be there at the forefront to work together with organizations like this one that are fighting against this. Let organizations involve the faithing group leaders which are within their community, because most of them, they may not come to you because they don't know about it, they're not aware of it. But if we can be able to try as much as possible to get them involved, I believe we can be in a better position than where we are at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and the other lady who was saying that about the insecurity, and when it comes to domestic abuse, when it comes to FGM, you can always report it as an anonymous person. You don't have always to say who you are. There are safer ways of reporting it, and it can always be helped. You don't have to run away because you are afraid of being threatened. But even if you are being threatened, there are safer ways. I always even encourage members, write a note, don't sign your name, throw it to church, throw it to a police station, throw it on the bus. Just put it anywhere, somewhere. Even in the supermarkets, those cashiers, when you are giving out your cash, give a note there. There is always a way that you can be able to work it out. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a lot there for us and some real active points that we all can take forward. So as we sort of run over time, and we are respectful of people's time this evening. We just wanted to thank you all for attending this evening. So on behalf of Community United West Berkshire, we wish you all a very good evening.